The CEO of Nvidia said 21 things that actually make people billionaires. And these are things that all of us should learn in school, but unfortunately we do not learn these things in school. Now, here I am going to talk about the 21 things. Number one, we start with the end in mind. Now, from the book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, where we have Stephen Covey talk about starting with the end in mind. He focuses on picturing something that you want to achieve and then think about it, picture it, and then see it in from the end. For example, if you want to have, let's say, a house by the end of this year, picture that house, picture each and every room in that house, picture the sitting room, the kitchen, the bedrooms, look at the lights, picture all of that, and then ask yourself, okay, now that I've pictured this house, how do I start to find ways to actually create what I envision? For example, you could start by saying, how much would it cost for me to actually build a house like this, or probably buy a house like this? Then I could then go ahead and then say, okay, if this is how much it costs, how much do I need to save? Or how much do I actually need to pay in advance so that I can actually own a house like this? Now, this is something that's very, very powerful, but not very many people understand this. My name is Martin Tumwine. I'm the CEO of Zantu Technologies, and I've been a software engineer for the past 10 years. I'm here to talk about the tips and tricks on how you can actually grow your business and grow your revenue 10 times. Now, after you've pictured that, then I now want you to go ahead and look at the costs involved for each and every part or thing that you need to have in that house. After doing that, then you now have a total sum. Most people forget that sometimes having a total sum is just that, but sometimes you can also think about it in this way. So a house, let's say a house costs a certain amount of money, right? Certain amount of money X. What you can do is you can divide that amount of money, let's say by the next 5 years, and say, okay, so in the next 5 years, right, how much am I going to pay to actually own a house like this, right? Set a plan. So X divided by 5. Okay, and then you now divide by 12 months of the year. Then you have to divide now by day. Now, if you're working in a job, or you need to get a job in this case, where you're actually able to actually get this amount of money and then pay it forward, save the money that you need to save to actually acquire this house. Number two, focus on the big problems. Now, this is something that all of us are willing to think about. And sometimes we have problems of all kinds. We have small problems and big problems. Now, what differentiates the two things is what value you actually create by solving any one of these problems. Some problems that organizations are facing are actually quite major. For example, think about the big enterprises, right? If you're in your country, think about the big enterprises in wherever you're living. Think about how much they're making. Think about how much they could lose if they actually have a particular problem. For example, if you have, let's say, a big enterprise that is trying to sell, let's say, coffee in a specific area, but then you have, let's say, for example, insects or pests that are actually ravaging the coffee in that area. So this big enterprise is suffering because they're not able to actually increase exports or increase productivity or production of processed coffee to the market. Now, what you do is come up with a way to actually deal with that sort of pest. And once you solve that problem, they'll pay you a hefty fee for that. Now, that one problem that you've solved would actually help you create value for that company and help the company grow 10 times forward in that case. Now, versus solving small problems. Small problems would also get you reward, but not as much as solving a big problem. Number three, so we need to stay curious and also stay hungry. The problem some entrepreneurs face is once they reach a certain level or a status in a certain area, they think they've achieved it. They think that, okay, I probably know enough and I think I'm comfortable in this space. I once had a friend of mine who hired me to do a job some time back, and he had a boss. And this boss actually said that he was actually venturing into a new business, but already he had begun a business before. Now, this business hadn't been successful for the past 5 years. It grew to a point where it no longer needed him to stay seated in the office or stay seated making plans and adjusting and working with everyone else now to make sure that things are on par or trying to achieve the best results. What he started doing was now thinking about what else can we venture into? What can I venture into? So, for example, he wanted to actually venture into oil. Then he got into oil, and then he grew his company. So his company now began to expand in that context. But he didn't know much about the oil industry. He read as many articles as possible. He went and talked to people or experts in the oil industry. And that's what he focused on. If you have this mentality of always staying curious, always trying, always planning, and always learning from the experts in other fields, then you are one way sure to actually achieve your goals, to actually grow your business from an area to another. Number 4, we have execute the best ideas. Now, this is something that I actually heard that one of the ways that companies actually grow really huge is you pit the people, or the you could say the directors, or probably the owners of the business, put them in a room and then plan and then think and then brainstorm new ideas, new products about, or maybe new product ideas or new service ideas to actually propel the company to a new level. Now, someone might say that this is going to be probably detrimental because you feel like you're going to waste time in meetings discussing about, products and services, or what new products and services that we're going to offer. But think about it this way. You're able to actually sit down in a room and discuss ideas. Now, it's very good to also challenge other people's ideas. The more you challenge, the more you begin to understand why one idea will not work. Then you begin to choose the best ideas out of that. For example, I could just give you a framework. If you or your business partners have something you want to get into, sit down and discuss the best way how you're going to get into that. You come up with your own strategy, let your partner come up with their own strategy, and then debate. This is actually the best way to actually get there. Debate the best ideas, and without any bias, just look for the best idea, choose the best idea based on what you guys have discussed. And that's how companies grow. Do not let envy settle in. Look to see how to grow the company based on the best ideas that you guys have selected. Number 5, embrace failure as a stepping stone. Now, I once heard of a story about a man who tried doing so many kinds of businesses and he still failed. And then towards his late 50s, he did actually succeed in a new business venture, and it actually grew, right? It actually grew exponentially, and was able to actually set up different franchises in different countries. Now, what lesson can we learn from this man? This man was actually interviewed one day, and he said that it would be very good that people embrace failure, because failure is just one step away from you creating something big, doing something big in your industry or in your market or whatever you're trying to do or even achieve. Failure is good because if you don't fail, then you fail to even hit the mark. You see that? So imagine you're playing darts and you're playing it with a friend and you're trying to just hit the target, right? If you don't throw, if you don't aim, you never get good at playing darts. But the more you fail to hit the target, and the more you keep trying and trying and trying, eventually you get better at it. Now look at that. Playing video games. If, for example, you're playing a specific level in a video game, and this level is constantly, you're actually failing on this constant level, the more you keep trying and failing, you eventually understand the dynamics and understand how to actually get through that level, what needs to be done so you can actually get better at actually beating that level. Now, that's how you should look at it. In business, it's actually the same thing. You might fail at your first business, your second business, your third business, but keep trying, keep pushing, and keep throwing in new ideas each and every time you keep trying. Number 6, build relentless persistence. Business is about persistence. You cannot grow a business unless you're constantly being persistent about each and every other thing. You're waking up early in the morning, just get to your business, plan your business, see how to grow the business, and that's like in that case. Now that's how you actually grow business. You cannot say, I'm going to work on the business for the next 10 days and then sit back and think that you've hired people to actually help you do what you need to do. No, you have to sit down, concentrate, think about how the business is actually going to grow and scale from one place to another. Now, that's one thing that you need to do. Be consistent. Number 7, be very adaptable. You need to be able to adapt to each and every scenario. For example, if you have a successful business in a specific location, and let's say you're selling probably jeans, right, and clothing. Now, when you try to expand into a new market, it would be very good for you to actually understand what kind of people live there in that new market. Understand what they love in terms of clothing, what's their fashion like. Because you cannot copy and paste this into a different location. Number 1, we have different cultures in different locations. We have different kinds of people, different ways of thinking, different patterns of thinking, different ways of life. Now, you might find that in another location, you might actually have to change your strategy, and probably if it's a colder region and they prefer maybe something that keeps them warm, then probably you might now maybe venture into sweaters in that regard. Now that allows you to make the business survive and thrive, because you know that this specific product works well in this specific location and this other product will work well in another location. Now you have to be adaptable, don't be rigid. Number 8, Customer obsession over competitor focus. A lot of us get fixated over what our competitors are doing. What are they doing better than us, right? Now, you need to change that focus. Stop being competitor focused and be customer centric. Focus about what the customer is actually saying about your product. Get customer reviews. Look into what people are saying, what they love about the product, what they hate about the product, what they probably wish the product would do for them, in a sense. This is gold. You cannot compete with other people if you're not creating something that people will love. And this is something that a lot of businesses begin to miss out, because you're literally thinking, okay, I'm going to compete with my competitor, and now I'm going to just do product-based pricing. You're going to lower the price and compete with the competitor. Some people just throw that out the window, and then they just focus on creating an exquisite product specifically for a client. I'll give you an example. Think about Apple and Samsung versus other phone manufacturers that actually create other kinds of phones. For example, mid-range phones versus flagship phones, right? Flagship phones that are being manufactured by the companies like Samsung or Apple or any other company focus more on what the customers actually love about the product. And they know that if they continue focusing on just those small things, the client will not move away from them, but they'll actually love the product even more and then be sort of like a brand ambassador for them, right? So they are focusing on a specific target customer, and they're not thinking about the competitor. Now you, on the other hand, need to think about this. What one thing can you do or innovate in your like in your specific area or space or business that is actually going to elevate the quality of your product and allow people to love your product even more? It doesn't have to even do with pricing. Yes, sometimes you might need to maybe do a bit of competitive pricing here and there, but pricing shouldn't be the goal. What should be the goal is creating a good product or an exquisite service that clients will love. Next, play the long game. Now, if some of you guys have heard of game theory, in game theory, we are looking at how do you play a specific game, right? You think of life as a game in game theory. Life as a game. Think of your business as a game. Think about what you're doing as a game, right? Now, you can play the long game or the short game. So I'll give you an example. The long game could be that you are going to create a new type of product for a new kind of market or an untapped market. I'll give you an example. Mobile money. Think about mobile money, right? How mobile money actually grew in Africa. Banks in this scenario are targeting a specific type of client, but out of a population of probably 30 million people, only about 1 million people might have bank accounts or used to have bank accounts back in the day. Look at those statistics. That means you're leaving a huge amount of population that is unbanked. Then someone came up with an idea and said, you know what, let's create a product for the unbanked people, right? Now you create a product for the unbanked people. I mean, it doesn't look very attractive from a business standpoint of view. You might actually spend a lot of money, right? You have to wait it out, probably 5 years, probably 10 years, but this pays out. Why? Because you're literally going to create a new product for an untapped market, so it never exists, and because you have the numbers to justify the reasoning why you're going into that specific direction, you're actually able to get the investment that you need and able to grow in a specific area or grow your business, not for the next 1 year, but probably the next 10 years. Versus you starting up something and probably you only reach a cap of a revenue cap of probably like 100 million Uganda shillings. Versus someone who might actually go into billions of Ugandan shillings in that context. Now think about the long game. Always think about that. Number 10, invest in your team, not in your product. So I once heard a great entrepreneur say that business people or entrepreneurs build teams, and these teams build the product. They build the business. Entrepreneurs do not build businesses. Entrepreneurs build teams that build the business. Take note of that. If you invest in a good team, right, train the team well enough, tell them to know what they do, or probably hire the right kinds of people, then the right kinds of people will know how to build the product. Get people who are smarter than you. Get people who are actually ready to fight and who can challenge you, right? Set your ego aside. I know a lot of us have ego. Set that thing aside. What you need to do is focus on building a great team that's going to build a great product, something that people are going to love. Next, innovation comes from bold risks. So we all know about risks, right? Risk assessments. We all know that if you are going to go into something that's really high risk, there's definitely a high reward for that. We all know that. Between companies know that. Different kinds of entrepreneurs actually know that. That you know what, if I'm going to create this product, it's probably going to be very risky because I might invest in a lot of money and it might not work. But you still need to do your due diligence. Sometimes we go in blindly, thinking that because it's high risk, it's definitely going to work. Sometimes it doesn't. And that's why you have to be very, very calculative. Calculate your risk. Look at your risk appetite. Look at what you're willing to do in order to achieve something. And then ask yourself the question, what can I do that is much more riskier? Right? Think about it. Business is risk, right? You've invested in a business, or probably you want to invest in something, and you're really doing something that's quite risky. Ask yourself the question, what can I do that's even more riskier, that can actually bring in a good return on investment? Think about that, right? But one thing that you need to do is calculate the risk at all times. Calculate that risk. Next, we look at speed is a competitive advantage. Speed, speed, speed. Where I work at Zanti Technologies, we've noticed that the faster you can actually build a product and ship it to market, then you'll be able to get customer feedback as soon as possible, make the adjustments, and then have the ability to actually get to product market fit. Now that's something that in the software engineering world is very, very paramount, and I'm sure it can also be applied to other kinds of businesses. Build a prototype, send it out to the field. If you're in the clothing industry, I don't care in the clothing industry or in the food industry or any other kind of industry, all you need to do is just focus, right? Build a prototype, ship it out, get feedback as soon as possible. We have over 7 billion people around the world. You need to think about what other people are thinking about. Everyone has an idea. The person next to you or who lives near you could actually have the same idea as well. But you need to get fast to the market. You need to iterate fast. You need to build fast and then iterate later and iterate fast at that. Then we need to value over price. Okay. Now, what you create as a product or a service, you create the value for that. But don't look at the price. Why? I'll tell you something. For example, if you are going to create a great experience for an individual or people in a sort of context, look at the value you're creating for them. Don't look at the price. Don't look at the cost. Don't look at the client and say, how much do you have? What's your budget like in this case? A lot of people make such mistakes. I made those mistakes. What you need to focus on is, this is the product. This is how much value it's going to create for you. This is how much time you're going to save if you use our product or our service. This is how much effort, right? You're going to be, this is how much effort is going to be lifted off of your shoulder so that you can focus on your business, right? If you're doing B2B in that case. Look at the value that your product or service creates for the client. Don't look at the price. Don't look at how much they can pay. Everybody's literally willing to pay less for something. But if something is going to solve a problem, they're willing to pay for that. Always think about that. Next, timing matters more than talent. Timing matters more than talent. In the book of Ecclesiastes, the writer simply says that the race is not to the swift, or the most talented, but timing and chance happens to them all. Timing matters more than talent. For example, it might just be the right time for a specific service or product to be released into the market, versus in specific instances where you might create a product that might not be useful for its time in that moment. Next, your network is your net worth. You need to change your network. I mean, it might seem harsh, but it's the reality. You need to think about the kinds of people you're spending time with. Do you spend time with the people who are probably lazy, people who don't want to get any work done? Because building a business is literally hard work. You wake up probably every morning at 5 a.m., 4 a.m., and then sleep at midnight. Sometimes you only have 2 hours of rest, sometimes an hour rest. Sometimes you might not rest, and you might literally be drinking enough coffee to kill a whole track team, right? So think about that. You need to think about the people that you are associating yourself with in that context. Okay? Other people who are in specific circles. So for example, when I started out, I had to look for people who are in entrepreneurial spaces, learn from them, share experiences with them, and grow with them. Now that's how you grow as well as an individual, and also grow your company as well. Next, communication is everything. Sometimes Actually did read a book that said you sometimes it's okay to even over communicate. If you're looking into steps about what needs to be done at a particular time, and probably maybe you need to delegate, you might need to over communicate that whole process so that everything is clear right to the dot, right to the to that exact detail. So that way you're not having misinterpretations or mistakes being done or being made by people. But in this case, you are actually able to grow a company simply because there's proper hierarchical communication. Also, at the same time, sometimes you might need to also look at your company structure and remove certain positions, right? Probably also eliminate maybe so many meetings in that sort of context and find very, very effective ways to communicate. Sometimes staying in a meeting for 10 hours might not be the way to go. Sometimes all you might need is just a 10-minute meeting every morning and communicate the most important things. Look at what's priority, right? What's priority? Discuss that in those meetings because that is very, very critical to growing your business. Next, focus on your core strengths. This is why we build teams. Focus on your strengths and don't fix your weaknesses, because fixing your weaknesses could actually take you months or probably even years to get there. But if you can work on your strength and actually get stronger in that specific field, then you're able to build a team around your weaknesses. Hire someone to cover over your weaknesses. Now that helps you to have positions of strength, right? Strong teams are actually able to actually execute faster and grow businesses better. Next, stay humble, stay grounded. This is very, very important because a lot of people miss this. They think that just because you're actually able to make the money, raking the millions of money, or how much money you're making for your within your business, that now you can do anything that you want to do. You want to spit on people, maybe disrespect people, and even your employees as well. That really doesn't work. In this world, actually, it's the humble people, the most meek people that actually make it out in life. Think about it. You cannot grow a company if your employees feel disrespected, right? You need to create an environment where you're actually able to talk to them and learn from your employees, learn from your subordinates, learn from your clients, learn from anyone out there that you can learn from, because pride always comes before a fall. Build a brand, not just a business. Build a brand. Brands are actually able to create franchises, and people love brands. Think about that. I mean, look at the brand of Apple, look at Samsung, look at all these other kinds of brands, in a sense. If you mention a specific type of product, right, and people know that product for like that one thing, then you built a brand. So you build a brand around a specific product. Emphasize and communicate. Now, this might also go into your marketing material or marketing campaigns. Emphasize what your product actually does and what it is good for. Sometimes you might have a product or service that's probably good at probably everything, right? Versus someone who actually has a product that's good at just one thing. And people will always talk about the other product that's very good at just one thing because it saves them like a lot of time or probably a lot of effort in specific areas or specific ways. Now you need to also think about that. How do you create a brand around a business? And this brand actually helps people talk about your business even more. So that means you don't have to spend a lot of time trying to do marketing or advertisements. People literally talk about your brand and grow your brand. Next, invest in emerging technologies. I mean, right now in the age of AI, right? If you don't invest in AI right now, you're probably going to be left behind because you need to automate certain processes. If everyone else is now getting into using AI to automate certain processes, you might need to do the same because you're actually able to do things faster. Remember, you need to move fast. So you need to get into emerging technologies, experiment with them, see what works, see what doesn't work, right? So what doesn't work, leave it. What works, stick with it, move with it, grow with it. In a sense, you need to just get into that space. For example, look at touchscreens, right? Touchscreen phones were invented way back in the day. Because some companies failed to jump onto that trend, right? And also create operating systems that allow developers to create applications for people. Some people actually were left behind. Some businesses actually were left behind because of just missing out on that trend. So jump onto a trend, see what sticks, grow with it, move with it. Next, the best time to start was yesterday. The second best time is now. For example, If you think that you're going to wait another 5 years to start a YouTube channel, think again. You might need to actually start now. Why am I saying this? You see, back in the day, it was imperative that you actually needed to have a website, but now website is just not enough. Now creating content is now what you need to be doing, right? Now, once you decide and say, you know what, I've been putting this off for long enough, I think it's best to start now. So you need to start now, not in the next 5 years or 10 years. Start small, just dedicate time to that one thing you've been putting off, then it's going to benefit you. Build it, build the skill in that space, and grow. That's what you need to do. Thank you very much. If you're a business owner and you're looking into how to grow your business or how to get into how to use technology around your business, we got you. What we do at Zanti Technologies is basically help other businesses automate their processes. How do we do that? We are technology leaders. We step in as consultants and then advise on maybe the best way to automate certain processes in your business by creating software. We also train software engineers, and most importantly, we do technology consultancy. In this specific case, we're actually able to lead your technology team. So if you are a team that has software engineers that actually need guidance, or that technology leader that you need, we got you. We are the right people for that. If you need to get in touch with us, our link is right in the description below. You can also book me on Calendly, and then we can have a chat. Don't forget to like and subscribe.